Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Travel advisory issued due to heavy fog alert for north and eastern Indian airports, including Delhi. Prime Minister Modi to address the closing ceremony of second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance to sell majority of US assets to American and global investors to avoid US ban. Violence erupts again in Bangladesh after young leader Osman Hadi's death. Concerns rise over security near Indian Assistant High Commission in Chattogram. Bank of Japan raises interest rates to 0.75%, ending 3 decades of easy money and marking a major shift in the global monetary landscape. And in sports, India aimed to seal the series against South Africa in the fifth and final T20 in Ahmedabad. Proteas look to draw level. Let's get to the weather updates first. Red alerts have been issued for the Indian states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar as dense to extremely dense fog is expected to disrupt visibility and daily movement over the next 2 days. The Met Department has issued a red alert for Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, warning of dense to extremely dense fog during early morning hours on December 19th and 20th. The conditions are expected to significantly reduce visibility and disrupt normal movement during peak morning hours. An orange alert has been placed over Punjab, Haryana and Delhi, where dense fog is likely to persist during early hours. Yellow alert is in place for Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Gangetic, West Bengal and parts of northeast India. In these regions, dense fog is likely in isolated pockets between December 19th and 22nd, with visibility issues expected mainly during morning hours. Due to prevailing fog conditions in parts of northern India, Minister of Civil Aviation has issued an advisory stating that all airport operations may be impacted. Passengers are requested to remain in contact with their airlines, check official platforms for updates and allow extra time for travel. Passenger facilitation teams are available at airports to support the travellers. For the day, 79 departures, including 2 international and 73 domestic arrivals, are cancelled today. Our correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us from New Delhi to get us more. Akshay, good morning. What more can you spell out? We've told our viewers that travel advisory has been issued by Civil Aviation Ministry. Get us more details.
Well, Preeti, first of all, if you can see in my own background here, you can see the situation of fog. You hardly can see, people that are barely about 20 to 30 meters away. And that is the situation in almost all the parts of North India, especially in the states of Haryana, in the state of Punjab, in Delhi. And the situation is even worse in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So it's sort of a, very difficult situation for several of the commuters who are traveling from one place to another. Especially in the VRs of today and even yesterday, the situation was almost the same, and it has been there for quite some time as far as the prevailing fog situation is concerned, and which it gets even worse with the sort of the bad air quality that mixes with the fog, and it turns into a smog that is even deadlier as far as these travel operations are concerned. So if you look at the the working of the aviation sector, as you rightly mentioned, over 70 flights, including 70 over 70 departures have been cancelled, including 2 international, and over 70 arrivals at the Indira Gandhi International Airport have been cancelled. Many of the flights are delayed. Travel advisories are being issued because of the situation. It becomes quite risky to operate the flight operations, and that's the reason why usually we see these situations erupting in winters. winter flight operations, that the flights do not take off on time, or do not arrive on time either. But this year especially, the situation is becoming worse. There have been several factors to it. Climate change is one of the major factors as far as these kind of extreme weather events are concerned, be it monsoon, be it summer seasons, be it winters. Unprecedented sort of weather patterns are being reported. And there is hardly anything that we can do about it. There's hardly anything that the authorities can do about it, but to adapt to the situation that is evolving in these kind of extreme weather events. The commuters will have to have been advised that they should keep on checking their details about their flight status. That they can use internet, the mobile application of the government of India, as well as of the airlines as well, to ensure that they leave on time, because in situations like these it becomes extremely difficult to operate airports as well, because a lot of people start pouring into the airport. Their flight get cancelled, they try to book another flights, or the flights are delayed there, so they have to spend several hours at the airport, waiting for their flight timings to update, or look for an alternative option. So it's best to check the weather conditions. It's best to check even for the railway operations, especially for flight operations, and even if you're traveling from one place to another via your own personal vehicle, it becomes extremely important to see the weather, weather situation while driving in sort of highways where fog and dense smog situation can make it quite hazardous to drive at higher speeds, because there is hardly any distance that you can see, and that has led to, in the past as well, several of accidents that take place. Because if there is one accident, and other cars are following from behind, they are not able to judge when to stop, and that leads to pile up of accidental vehicles on the highways that can turn deadly as well. So the situation is bad, but travel advisories are being issued by the government as well as by the private players when it comes to aviation sector, and it becomes essential for people to check their the advisories before they plan to travel, for a safe and easy travel for them, as well as for easier execution of these operations. Back to you, Preeti.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us with those details. And underscoring India's growing leadership and pioneer initiatives in shaping a global, science-based and people-centric traditional medicine agenda, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the closing ceremony of 2nd WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. Prime Minister has constantly emphasized on mainstreaming traditional medicine and Indian knowledge system through research, standardization and global collaboration. In line with this vision, during the program, Prime Minister will launch several landmark Ayush initiatives, including My Ayush Integrated Services Portal, a master digital portal for the Ayush sector. He will also unveil the Ayush Mark, which is envisioned as a global benchmark for quality of Ayush products and services. On the occasion, Prime Minister will release the WHO technical report. He will also release a commemorative postal stamp on ashwagandha, symbolizing the global resonance of India's traditional medicinal heritage. Prime Minister will felicitate the recipients of the Prime Minister's Awards for outstanding contribution to the promotion and development of yoga for the years 2021 to 2025, recognizing their sustained dedication to yoga and its global promotion. He will also visit the Traditional Medicine Discovery Space, an exhibition which showcases the diversity, depth and contemporary relevance of traditional medicine knowledge systems from India and across the world. Co-hosted by the World Health Organization and the Indian government's Ministry of Ayush, the 3-day global summit on traditional medicine in New Delhi has brought together policymakers, scientists, practitioners, indigenous knowledge holders and civil society leaders from across the world. Participants showed enthusiasm about the event while appreciating the Indian government for organizing it.
The Indian government has done a wonderful thing by enabling the WHO to come here and host this event. It's amazing, and it's amazing to see how India and the Ayush have already integrated so much of traditional medicine, where we lag behind actually in Europe, and we're trying to gain that momentum and get more funding to make sure that we have traditional medicines within all of our countries.
The participants also highlighted the opportunity that the summit is offering for like-minded people in this field to come together and exchange ideas.
For me, being here is really an opportunity to learn and to see the broader, the bigger picture of the world, and to learn from the colleagues from the other continents and other regions how they are thinking, how they are perceiving, how they are developing all the different traditional methods. So people are the biggest resource.
Let's get to updates on the winter session of Parliament. Now, both houses of Parliament passed the Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Grameen Bill amid protests from the opposition. The bill was passed by the upper house with a voice vote, hours after the lower house cleared it on Thursday. The bill aims to replace Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is Manrega 2005. The bill guarantees 125 days of wage employment per rural household, up from the existing 100 days for adult members willing to undertake unskilled manual work. It links wage employment with durable rural infrastructure across 4 priority areas. The bill aims at aligning rural employment policy with government's Viksit Bharat 2047 vision. It strengthens decentralized planning through Viksit Gram Panchayat plans and nationally integrated through the Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack. The shift to normative funding and a centrally sponsored structure improves predictability, accountability and center-state partnership. Parliament has also passed the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill 2025, with the upper house approving it on Thursday. The lower house passed the legislation on Wednesday. It replaces the Atomic Energy Act 1962 and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. The legislation aimed at development of nuclear energy and ionizing radiation for its nuclear power generation for welfare of the countrymen. It also seeks to provide a robust regulatory framework for its safe and secure utilization. The bill seeks to constitute the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board and establish the Atomic Energy Redressal Advisory Council. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the passage of the bill in both the Houses of Parliament. On the social media platform X, he wrote, and I quote him, "The passage of this bill by both Houses of Parliament marks a transformational moment for our technology landscape. My gratitude to MPs who have supported its passage. From safely powering AI to enabling green manufacturing, it delivers a decisive boost to a clean energy future for the country and the world. It also opens numerous opportunities for the private sector and our youth. This is the ideal time to invest, innovate and build in India." And I unquote him. Up next, we take a look at what the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill is. We'll have the details up on your screens. The legislation will repeal the Atomic Energy Act 1962 and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010, replacing them with a single consolidated statute governing nuclear power generation, safety regulation, liability and compensation, as well as non-power applications of nuclear and ionizing radiation. This bill proposes a unified law governing the production, use, regulation and expansion of nuclear energy and ionizing radiation in India. This bill is closely linked to the government's ambition to scale India's nuclear power capacity sharply over the next 2 decades, including through the development of small modular reactors and indigenous reactor designs. Massive protests broke out in several parts of Bangladesh, including Dhaka and Chattogram, following the death of July uprising organizer Sharif Osman Hadi in Singapore. Hadi, the convener of Inqilab Manch, died while undergoing treatment after he was shot in the head in Dhaka on December 12th. The premises of the renowned Bengali cultural organization Chayanath were vandalized and partially set on fire. A mob reportedly attacked the office of Bangladesh's leading Bangla daily Pratham Alo in Dhaka. Now, according to local media reports, the attack took place around midnight at the newspaper's Karma Bazaar office. Several employees confirmed that multiple floors of the building were ransacked, with documents, books, furniture and computers reportedly set ablaze. Protests also erupted outside the Indian Assistant High Commissioner's residence in Chattogram, raising serious concerns over the security of diplomatic premises. Now, according to police sources, the incident occurred in the early hours of December 19th, when an enraged crowd gathered outside the residences and hurled brickbats, damaging property and creating panic in the area. As the situation escalated, law enforcement agencies fired tear gas shells to disperse the protesters. India has lodged a strong protest against what it has called the deteriorating security situation around its mission in Dhaka. On Wednesday, India's Foreign Ministry summoned Bangladeshi envoy Riaz Hamidullah to convey its concerns about the actions of some extremist elements in the country. You're watching Leading the News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, US slaps sanctions on 2 more ICC judges for investigating Israel. Seven killed in small plane crash in North Carolina airport in the US. And suspected gunman in Brown University shooting case found dead. Welcome back after the break. You're watching Leading the News Hour. US President Donald Trump signed into law nearly $1 trillion annual defense policy bill, despite provisions providing new aid to Ukraine and reining in his ability to dial down US involvement in the defense of Europe. The fiscal 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, authorizes a record $901 billion in annual military spending, $8 billion more than Trump requested. The act is an annual must-pass piece of legislation that sets lawmakers' defense priorities. This year's version aims to codify more than a dozen of President Trump's executive orders. White House announced that they had signed the bill. It was a quiet affair with no Oval Office ceremony attended by the reporters. The act includes $800 million in aid for Ukraine, spread over 2 years, funding US-made weapons as Russia's invasion continues. It also boosts security for NATO's eastern flank, allocating $175 million for Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia. European Union leaders decided on Friday to borrow cash to fund Ukraine's defense against Russia rather than use frozen Russian assets with an interest-free loan of 90 billion euros to cover its military and budgetary needs for the next 2 years. Ukraine will only have to repay the loan if Russia pays reparations for its fight. The deal will not affect the financial obligations of Hungary, Slovakia and the Czech Republic. At the same time, EU governments and the European Parliament would continue working on setting up a loan for Ukraine that would be based on the frozen Russian central bank assets. The loan to Ukraine based on the joint borrowing would only be repaid by Ukraine once it receives conflict reparations from Moscow. Until then, the Russian assets would remain immobilized and the EU reserves the right to use them to repay the loan, according to the text.
The member states have agreed to finance the Ukraine through EU borrowing on the capital markets for an amount of 90 billion euros for the next 2 years. We will do this by way of enhanced cooperation that is backed by the EU budget headroom and based on an unanimous agreement to amend the MFF. Similarly to the reparations loan, very important here, Ukraine would only need to pay back the loan once it receives reparations. This is the solution we found together, and as discussed in the last weeks, financing Ukraine beyond 2027 will then be part of the next MFF discussion.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Friday that the government will launch a national gun buyback scheme following the mass shooting in Sydney. The buyback would be similar to gun reforms introduced soon after the massacre in 1996 in Tasmania's Port Arthur after a lone gunman killed 35 people, which prompted authorities to implement some of the world's toughest gun laws.
Today, I'm also announcing that the government will establish a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms. The government will introduce legislation to support the funding of this buyback scheme and meet the costs on a 50-50 basis with states and territories. We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme.
Albanese, under pressure from critics who say his centre-left government has not done enough to curb a surge in anti-Semitism, has said that the government would also strengthen hate laws. Late on Thursday, the police said that they had intercepted 2 cars and detained 7 men in Sydney's southwest after receiving information that a violent act was possibly being planned. Hundreds of paddle-out surfers and swimmers took to the waters at Bondi Beach in Australia in a memorial for victims of the mass shooting. Father and son gunmen are accused of firing into crowds at a beachside Jewish festival last Sunday, killing 15 people in an attack authorities linked to Islamic State ideology. Let's get you updates on the U.S. university shooting now. Suspected gunman in Brown University shooting case has been found dead. The suspect in the mass shooting at Brown University last weekend is dead, a U.S. attorney said, as authorities investigate whether the same person killed a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor 2 days after the rampage at Brown University. Christina Sterling, a spokesperson for U.S. Attorney Lee Foley in Boston, confirmed the suspect is dead. The manhunt since Saturday's shooting inside a classroom building at Brown University has left students and residents of Providence, Rhode Island restless and eager for an arrest. 2 students at the Ivy League school were killed and at least 8 were wounded. On Monday, MIT professor Nuno Loureiro, 47 years of age, was fatally shot in his home in the Boston suburb of Brookline, Massachusetts, some 50 miles north of Brown's campus. An FBI official had said this week that the authorities did not believe there was a link between Saturday's shooting at Brown University and the MIT professor's murder. Loureiro was a member of the Departments of Nuclear Science and Engineering and Physics, as well as MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Investigators in Providence said that the suspect in the Brown University shooting case escaped on foot into the nearby streets, prompting a search that relied heavily on residential security footage because of lack of surveillance cameras in the classroom building and surrounding areas. Seven people were killed on Thursday in the crash of a Cessna 550 business jet in Statesville, North Carolina, including former NASCAR driver Greg Byfull. The plane crashed at Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. The North Carolina Highway Patrol said that it is believed that Byfull and members of his immediate family were among those killed, but because of a severe post-crash fire, a formal confirmation has not been completed. The plane was registered to a company tied to Byfull. Greg Byfull won 19 Cup Series races over 20 years. His final race was on the circuit, and that was 2022 Geco 500 at Talladega. He was named as NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers in 2023. The leaders of Brazil and Mexico on Thursday offered to step in to try and avert the risk of war between the United States and Venezuela. The Latin American nations are looking on in dismay as Washington ramps up military and economic pressure on Nicolas Maduro's government, raising fears of a direct effort to unseat the Venezuelan leader. Brazilian President Lula da Silva said that he was very worried about the mounting crisis on Brazil's doorstep. He said that he had offered Brazil's help to both leaders to avoid an armed conflict here in Latin America.
I spoke with President Maduro and told him that if he wanted Brazil to help in any way, he had to say what he would like us to do. And I told Trump, if you think Brazil can contribute, we are very interested in talking to Venezuela and talking to you, talking to other countries so that we can avoid armed conflict here in Latin America and in our beloved South America.
Aqui na América Latina e na nossa querida América do Sul.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum also offered to act as a go-between in talks between Washington and Caracas to find a peaceful solution so that there is no U.S. intervention. Russia, meanwhile, said that it was in constant contact with close ally Maduro and called for a de-escalation. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also called for restraint and immediate de-escalation of tensions. The United Nations Security Council will meet next Tuesday at the request of Caracas, which urged an urgent meeting over the ongoing U.S. aggression. Meanwhile, the U.S. military said on Thursday that it carried out kinetic strikes on 2 vessels suspected of smuggling drugs in the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. Southern Command, in a social media post, said that 5 narco-terrorists were killed during these actions, 3 in the first vessel and 2 in the second vessel. It further said that no U.S. military forces were harmed in these strikes. Earlier, 4 people were killed in another U.S. military strike against alleged drug trafficking boat in the Eastern Pacific Ocean on Wednesday. Let's get to updates on the Gaza conflict now. The United States is set to host talks in Miami on the Gaza ceasefire, aiming to move to the next stage of the agreement. President Trump confirmed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to visit later this year. The second phase of the ceasefire, brokered in October, calls for Israel to withdraw from certain positions in Gaza and for an interim authority to govern the territory instead of Hamas. An international stabilization force is also planned to help maintain peace as both sides facing challenges in fully implementing the agreement. The Miami talks aim to address these hurdles and advance the transition to this next stage. U.S. administration on Thursday imposed sanctions on 2 more judges from the International Criminal Court over their involvement in the court's case against Israel. The Trump administration has already imposed sanctions on 9 ICC judges and prosecutors and threatened to designate the court in its entirety if the ICC did not drop its charges against the Israeli leaders. Earlier this year, the U.S. administration sanctioned 6 other judges and the court's prosecutor, Karim Khan, and his 2 deputies. The measures mean the judges cannot travel to the United States or hold any assets there, but they also make it virtually impossible for them to hold credit cards, making everyday financial transactions and online purchases difficult. In November last year, ICC judges issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Chief Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity during the Gaza conflict. Preparations are gathering pace in New York's Times Square for the New Year's Eve, with just days to go before the iconic ball drop. The numerals 2026 were unveiled at a ceremony in Times Square Plaza, drawing early celebrations from spectators already wearing 2026 themed glasses. Now, according to the Times Square Alliance, the 4 7 feet tall numerals are made using a total of 5,280 waterfall crystals and together form the part of the famous Centennial Ball display. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David Van Wiel, is on an India visit. NIA arrests another key accused in connection with the last month's Delhi bomb blast case. Goa Liberation Day being celebrated to mark the victory of Indian Armed Forces to free Goa from 450 years of Portuguese rule.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. A quick relook at the top stories now. Travel advisory issued due to heavy fog alert for north and eastern Indian airports, including Delhi. Prime Minister Modi to address closing ceremony of second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance to sell majority of US assets to American and global investors to avoid US ban. Violence erupts again in Bangladesh after young leader Osman Hadi's death. Concerns rise over security near Indian Assistant High Commission in Chattogram. Bank of Japan raises interest rates to 0.75%, ending 3 decades of easy money and marking a major shift in the global monetary landscape. And in sports, India aim to seal the series against South Africa in the 5th and final T20 in Ahmedabad. Proteas look to draw level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned home on Thursday after successfully concluding his 3-nation visit to Jordan, Ethiopia and Oman, which has underlined India's rising global stature and also diplomatic outreach. The 4-day tour from December 15th to 18th focused on deepening trade, strategic cooperation and people-to-people ties. We get to more in this report.
From the deserts of West Asia to the heart of Africa, India's diplomatic footprint is widening, confident, credible and consequential. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India today is not just engaging the world, but shaping partnerships that reflect its rising global stature and voice of the Global South. That momentum was on full display during the Prime Minister's 3-nation visit to Jordan, Ethiopia and Oman from December 15th to 18th. Prime Minister Modi was in Oman on December 15. His visit coincided with the 75th anniversary of India-Jordan diplomatic relations. Prime Minister held talks with Jordanian Prime Minister Dr. Jafar Hassan. Leaders discussed trade, defense, renewable energy and people-to-people links. PM proposed raising bilateral trade to $5 billion and linking Jordan's digital payments with India's UPI.
Honorable Prime Minister was accorded ceremonial welcome at the airport. Later in the day, Prime Minister departed for Al Husseiniya Palace. At the palace, he was warmly welcomed by His Majesty King Abdullah II. Prime Minister was accorded a guard of honor at the palace. After this, both the leaders had a one-on-one conversation, followed by delegation-level talks.
During this visit, India and Jordan signed MOUs on renewable energy, water management, digital solutions, cultural exchange, and a twinning agreement between Petra and Ellora. Prime Minister Modi and King Abdullah II addressed the India-Jordan Business Forum, focusing on boosting trade and investment ties. From Jordan, the Prime Minister travelled to Ethiopia. India and Ethiopia elevated ties to a strategic partnership, reaffirming cooperation as Global South partners for an inclusive world order. During this visit, Prime Minister Modi was also conferred Ethiopia's highest civilian honour, the Great Honour Nishan of Ethiopia. On December 17, the Prime Minister addressed a joint session of the Ethiopian Parliament.
The two leaders met in one-to-one format, followed by delegation-level talks and banquet hosted by Prime Minister Abe. The two leaders had productive and wide-ranging discussions where they reviewed the full spectrum of the bilateral partnership.
In the final leg of the tour, Prime Minister Modi visited Oman. India and Oman signed several MOUs, including a comprehensive economic partnership agreement and MOUs in maritime, agriculture, and higher education. Besides, Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq, conferred upon Prime Minister Narendra Modi the Order of Oman for his exceptional contribution to India-Oman ties and his visionary leadership. Dedicating this award to the people of India, Prime Minister called this award a symbol of affection and trust between the people of India and Oman. Nishoy Roy's report for DD India.
Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David van Wiel, is on an India visit and is expected to meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Earlier on Thursday, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David van Wiel, in the national capital and discussed a range of bilateral security and defense issues, including priority areas for co-development and co-production of defense equipment. Both countries intend to explore the possibilities of defense cooperation in identified areas for the mutual benefit by developing a defense industrial roadmap for technology collaboration, co-production and co-development of platforms and equipment. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh stated that people-to-people ties between both the countries are very strong, with large Indian diaspora in the Netherlands serving as a living bridge and strengthening the bonds of friendship. India's National Investigation Agency has arrested another key accused in connection with the last month's Delhi bomb blast case. Yasir Ahmed Dar, a resident of Shopian in Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir, is the 9th accused to be arrested in the case. He was nabbed by an NIA team from Delhi. Dar was placed under arrest under the relevant provisions of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. According to NIA, investigations have revealed Dar's active role in the conspiracy behind the car bomb blast. Investigators have also further found that Dar was in close contact with other accused in the case, including Umar Unnabi, the deceased perpetrator of the bombing, and Mufti Irfan, a key conspirator. Bolstering its efforts to provide assistance to Sri Lanka under Operation Sagar Bandhu, India has provided dry rations and logistic support to the island nation. The Indian Army is aiding bridge reconstruction to restore severe road links in Sri Lanka and facilitate travel for communities impacted by Cyclone Ditwa. In a social media post, the High Commission of India in Colombo shared some pictures of Indian Army engineers working steadily along the A35 near Kilinochchi, preparing and supporting bridge restoration efforts to reconnect disrupted road networks and ease movement for the communities affected by Cyclone Ditwa. Meanwhile, India continues to provide essential food items to people of Sri Lanka under Operation Sagar Bandhu. Assistant High Commission of India in Kandy on Thursday distributed dry ration packets to 200 families of Novara area affected by Cyclone Ditwa. Sharing pictures on social media, the Assistant High Commissioner of India in Kandy said that India reaffirms its steadfast solidarity with the people of Sri Lanka during this period of recovery. In keeping with India's neighbourhood first policy, Operation Sagar Bandhu was launched to provide humanitarian assistance to people in Sri Lanka affected by the devastating cyclone Ditwa. December 19th marks a defining moment in India's post-independence history. It was the day Goa, Daman and Diu finally broke free from centuries of colonial rule and became part of the Indian Union. After years of failed diplomacy and growing resistance, New Delhi made a decisive move that would change history in just 40 hours. Operation Vijay. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us the special report. December 19th is remembered as the day history finally turned in Goa. After more than 450 years under Portuguese rule, the tricolour rose over Goa, Daman and Diu, the result of Operation Vijay. For years after India's independence in 1947, these territories remained frozen in colonial time, governed by Portugal as the Estado da India or the Portuguese States of India. Diplomatic efforts from New Delhi failed and the promise of freedom for Goa seemed endlessly deferred until India chose a decisive path. Goa's story under Portuguese rule began in 1510 when Admiral Alfonso de Albuquerque defeated the Sultan of Bijapur. But resistance never faded. Nationalist voices like Tristão de Bragança Cunha carried the political struggle forward, while socialist leader Ram Manohar Lohia's rally in 1947 ignited mass defiance. Armed groups such as the Azad Gomantak Dal believed liberation could not come without force. After independence, India tried negotiation, wary of international fallout as Portugal, under dictator Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, claimed Goa as an overseas province and invoked NATO support. This deadlock pushed India towards action. The action took place in December 1961. Operation Vijay was executed with speed and precision, involving nearly 45,000 Indian troops advancing by land, sea and air. In just 40 hours, resistance crumbled. On the evening of December 19, the Portuguese Governor-General surrendered, bringing an end to 451 years of colonial rule in India. Today, Goa Liberation Day honors the struggles that finally brought Goa home. Bureau Report for DD India. On Goa Liberation Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote on social media platform X, and I quote him, "Goa Liberation Day reminds us of a defining chapter in our national journey. We recall the indomitable spirit of those who refused to accept injustice and fought for freedom with courage and conviction. Their sacrifices continue to inspire us as we work towards the all-round progress of Goa." A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. The Commission for Air Quality Management has carried out a comprehensive review of municipal solid waste management across India's national capital region, including Delhi and adjoining states. The assessment focused on prevailing open burning of waste, improving biomass handling, remediating legacy waste, and strengthening waste processing infrastructure. The review was conducted through a series of meetings with state governments and local bodies to evaluate compliance with statutory directions and reinforce coordinated measures aimed at improving air quality across the region. Indian Railways is gearing up for the holiday rush, operating 138 special trains across 9 zones for Christmas and New Year's travelling. Out of 650 trips proposed and approved, 244 have already been notifying, ensuring smooth and joyful journeys for passengers during the festive season. You're watching DD India News. We're waiting for a short break, but after the break, Bolivians voiced criticism after the government plans to get rid of its fuel subsidies, ending 20 years of fixed prices. Jharkhand wins maiden Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. Ishan Kishan hits century in the final. Special guests at the Rio de Janeiro Aquarium amuse all. Stay with us to know who these visitors were.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. Let's get you updates from the world of business. The Bank of Japan raised interest rates on Friday to levels unseen in 3 decades, taking another landmark step in ending decades of huge monetary support and near-zero borrowing costs. As widely expected, the central bank raised short-term interest rates to 0.75% from 0.5% by a unanimous vote. The first increase since January came hours after official data showed the country's core inflation rate held steady in November, but still well above the policymakers' target. The bank began hiking rates from below zero in March last year as figures signaled an end to the country's lost decades of stagnation, with inflation surging. A quick look at global market updates now. Asian share markets held Wall Street-driven gains on Friday, while the yen eased after the Bank of Japan raised interest rates to a three-decade high and left the door wide open to further tightening. Japan's Nikkei was up 1.3%, having tracked an overnight rally on Wall Street. South Korea stocks rose 0.8%, and tech-heavy Taiwan 1.3%, encouraged by stellar results from chipmaker Micron Technology. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan added 0.7%, while Chinese blue chips gained 0.6%. For European bourses, Eurostoxx 50 futures and FTSE futures were both down 0.3%, while DAX futures dipped 0.2%. S&P 500 futures were flat, while Nasdaq futures added 0.2%. TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance signed binding agreements with three major investors to sell just over 80% of the company's U.S. assets to American and global investors to avoid a U.S. government ban. TikTok CEO told employees on Thursday that the social media company, as well as its Chinese owner ByteDance, had agreed to the new entity with Oracle, Silver Lake and Abu Dhabi-based MGX on board as major investors. The deal is a major step towards resolving years of uncertainty about the short video app's future in the United States since August 2020, when the then President Donald Trump first tried unsuccessfully to ban the app that is now used regularly by more than 170 million Americans. The deal, set to close on January 22nd, would end years of efforts to force ByteDance to divest its U.S. business over national security concerns. From viral dances to global headlines, TikTok has taken the world by storm. Here's what you need to know about the app that's changing how we watch, share, and even debate online. TikTok, the popular short video app, now has over 1 billion users worldwide, including 170 million in the US. Launched in 2016 in China as Douyin and released internationally as TikTok in 2017, it merged with Musical.ly in 2018, propelling its global rise. The app's Chinese ownership and data practices have sparked controversy, with India banning it in 2020, the EU fining it $620 million, and Australia restricting under 16s to use the app. In the US, new legislation requires ByteDance to divest TikTok or the platform faces the ban. TikTok has now announced a joint venture with Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX to oversee US data, algorithms, and content moderation. Bolivia's new president, Rodrigo Paz, announced that the country will get rid of its fuel subsidies, ending 20 years of fixed prices. Bolivians reacted with frustration and uncertainty after the government scrapped fuel subsidies, triggering sharp price hikes that rippled through daily life. Lines of minibuses, taxis and cargo trucks stretched for blocks at gas stations as drivers faced an 86% jump in gasoline prices and 163% jump for diesel. The government stated that the move will reduce costly fuel smuggling and have announced wage and welfare increases to cushion the impact. However, transport workers and much of the informal workforce fear higher fares, rising inflation and inadequate relief. On to sports now. We will talk of cricket first. India and South Africa are set for a thrilling 5th T20 international encounter at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Friday, with the hosts leading the series 2-1 and aiming to seal the deal on home soil. The 4th T20 international in Lucknow was abandoned due to heavy fog, leaving both teams eager to finish the tour on a positive note. India have enjoyed strong support at this iconic venue and will be hoping to capitalize on familiar conditions and the backing of a passionate home crowd. For India, the series decider not only represents a chance to wrap up the T20 international contest convincingly, but also provides valuable preparation ahead of major upcoming events like the T20 World Cup. The two teams have faced off 34 times in the T20 internationals, and India has won 20 of those encounters. South Africa has emerged victorious 13 times, while one game ended in no result. Jharkhand state cricket team clinched India's domestic T20 cricket league, the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, for defeating Haryana in the summit clash on Thursday. Put into bat first, Jharkhand posted a mammoth 262 runs on the board. Skipper Ishan Kishan, who is currently out of the Indian side across all three formats, rose to the occasion with a scintillating 101 off 49 balls, while Kumar Kushagra smashed 81 off just 38 deliveries. The duo added 177 runs for the second wicket, the highest partnership in the history of a Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy final. In reply, Jharkhand restricted Haryana to 193 runs, sealing a commanding 69-run victory. This was Jharkhand's maiden appearance in the final and their first ever title. They won 10 of their 11 matches in the tournament and remained unbeaten in their first 9 games. The historic triumph marks a significant moment for Jharkhand, firmly stamping their authority on national cricket map. As the Men's Hockey India League gears up for its new season in January, Delhi SG Pipers continue preparations with a strong focus on youth and leadership. DD India's correspondent Mehraj Singh caught up with captain of the men's Delhi team, Jarmanpreet Singh, who spoke about leading a young squad, lessons from the last season, and also team's expectations going into the tournament. Let's look into it.
A new edition of Hockey India League is just round the corner, with the men's tournament starting from 3rd of January in 2026. And to talk more about this, we have the captain of the Delhi team, Jarmanpreet Singh. So a very warm welcome to you. So new challenges, new season, and a new role of captaincy as well. So first of all, how do you see this new role of captaincy?
First of all, thank you so much. I think it's a great opportunity for me to improve my leadership quality in this season. And as the Pipers trust on me, coaches and staff and management, and trust on me and giving me this opportunity. So I will try to give my 100% in the game also, but I will also try to give my full 100 in my leadership quality also.
This auction for Delhi was also very youth-centric, and there's a good amount of young players in the team. So as a captain, what will be your order of business to prepare them for the tournament?
For young players, I think it's a great opportunity to show themselves that they can make in senior men's teams. So this is a very good opportunity for the junior players. So we will try to make everyone comfortable in the team first, because they will play with some senior players and some foreigner players. So that's our biggest challenge, to take our team on another step from the last season, and we expect from all junior players to give their 100% in full season.
And we talked about the youth of this team, but we should also talk about the seasoned player, the acquisition of Rupinder Pal Singh. So how do you see his acquisition and his addition to the team?
Rupinder Pal is one of the most senior players in our team, in Indian players. So I think their guidance and how to play well in pressure matches. So they will teach us, and they will help us in every match. And so I think Rupinder Pal's presence is very important for team.
And maybe some key areas that you identified last year, which you think you can rectify this year to maybe have a top 4 finish and reach the final as well?
Yeah, that's our main target this year. We have to, last time we didn't do well. We end up in the last. But this time we will try to make top 4 in this season.
New hopes and new challenges. It will be interesting to see how Delhi changes its fortune in the upcoming season of the super exciting Hockey India League. With cameraman Gaurav, this is Mehraj Singh for DD India, Delhi.
Santa Claus swapped his sleigh for scuba gear at Aquarium in Rio de Janeiro, diving into South America's largest marine aquarium with Mrs. Claus. Carrying a Christmas tree, they swam across sharks, rays and tropical fish, turning the tank into a festive underwater scene. Christmas magic takes a new form here up on your screens. With that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.